I'm super curious. You remembered thousands of lives. Were there one or two lives that just stood out, that you were like,
Yes.
oh my goodness, how cool to have experienced that? What if humans do? Yeah.
My favorite lifetime was, I was a nebula, which is just a gaseous entity, out in space. And I could feel me spread out over space. And, I was watching from inside the universe. I was watching everything that was going on in the various solar systems. And, it was just cool. And then my second favorite one was one that later interfered with Nanci's life. I was a shuttle pilot. I was some kind of what humans would call an alien being. I had like kind of moist, shiny, scaly skin and coronal ridges, over my head. It reminded me a little bit of a Klingon, from Star Trek. And I had two sets of eyelids. One went that way and one went this way. And my irises were orange. But anyway, I was a space shuttle pilot. And my job was to take supplies and goods and things from a space station and fly them in a shuttle out to the big spaceships that were too big to dock at the spaceport. So I would just, all day long, I just fly, goods from the space station out to the spaceships, pick up whatever they had that they wanted to leave at the space station, fly that back. Well, after I get back into Nanci's body, I didn't have a fear of heights anymore. So I took flying lessons, and I had the darnest time trying to learn how to properly land an airplane, because I wanted to come in and drop down to the ground and then just scoot along like a shuttle and out in space. And my flight instructor kept telling me I was going to kill myself doing that. But that's the only lifetime I can think of that has really interfered with living now.
That's fascinating. And
that's fun.
I think you're really brave. That's really cool. That's really cool. Okay, so you had a lot of questions. I can identify with that. A part of me was like, I wish I had the same experience, because I have so many questions to ask God. Could you share with us, if it's not private, what the answers were to, and what were your most pressing questions, if you would like to share, and what was the answer from Source?
Well, my first book is the 7 questions and the answers I got. Plus a section on what Source showed me was a better way to live. When I was watching that history of Earth, and I saw the future, I was given answers to, what's a better way to live life. But the 7 questions were: who is God? Who am I? What's the purpose of life? Why am I on Earth? Where's heaven? Where's hell? And what's the one true religion? So who is God is this infinite energy field with that's alive. It has personality and character traits. One of those character traits is a sense of humor. So that's where we get it, is, God has a sense of humor. Who we are, there's no good term for it. It's kind of like a book character in a novelist's mind, or a dream character in our own mind. Source wanted to know what it was like to relate to somebody else. And there wasn't anybody else. It was just Source. So in order to have someone to relate to, and also to find out what different things felt like that it could imagine, but couldn't directly experience itself, because it's this huge energy field, it imagined the universe, and it sent out this bolus of mental energy, kind of like what we call the Big Bang, and watched that energy evolve over time into the various stars and the planets and galaxies and everything. And it imposed like laws, what we call laws of nature, like gravity and molecular cohesion and chemical reactions and things like that on this energy, so that it would have processes and protocols to follow as it evolved. And then it created these mental characters. Each has a unique personality composed of some of Source's own character traits, and then other character traits that Source can imagine but doesn't personally have. And then Source puts those characters, mental characters, inside of physical world. It's very much grander, but on kind of very much like our dreams. In our dreams, we create a dreamscape. Source has the universe. We create dream characters. Source has all the creatures and things in the universe. We put ourselves into one of the dream characters and experience the dream from inside that character. And we relate to other dream characters. We have this little story going on, and we experience it from being inside one of those characters. The Source puts itself into all the people and all the animals and all the plants and all the things throughout the universe, and experiences physical life from inside all those things, just like we do our dreams. The purpose of life is to gather experiences for Source. It's just to fulfill that job of living. It's just to live. And when we're not, fulfilling our particular purpose, like we all pick a theme to study, some kind of aspect of physical life that Source can't experience directly. And we pick that to observe or to experience all through the universe. But when we're not experiencing that particular thing, that particular character trait, the rest of it's supposed to be fun. So that's the purpose of life, it's just to gather experiences for Source. Why am I on Earth? Because I chose to be. I learned going back in 1994 that I volunteered to come into physical life at this point in time because Earth was going through a tremendous transition. And, we see it on the news every day. I mean, you can't help but notice that, tremendous things are happening to the Earth and to people on it. And so 1 million of us volunteered to come into Earth and try to help with that transition. I had not been incarnated for, what would be thousands and thousands of human years. Where's hell? There is no hell. Source created the entire universe in its mind. It did not create any kind of hell or any kind of punishment or any kind of Satan or demons or evil or anything like that. There was no reason to. And I find that from my readers, that's one of the hardest things to accept, is that there's no punishment. But every afterlife experiencer that I have read or heard who had a deep experience and had a life review will tell you there's no judgment. Nobody in the afterlife is going to say, oh, you done wrong, you need to be punished for this. That's a human desire to punish, to get revenge. That's an animal trait. And we don't have those traits once we leave these bodies. We are no longer human once we leave these bodies. So where's heaven, where's hell? And then the one true religion I already answered. So those were the answers.
Very, very interesting. All right. So how did this afterlife experience end? And did you feel like you were there for a long time? Did you have a sense of time?
There's no time, but I went through several stages of afterlife. And I think part of that was because I wasn't buying it. I wanted proof. I mean, I knew what I was being told and what I was living was true, but I wanted evidence. I wanted proof. I wanted to be convinced. And so it took a lot of convincing. I'm a real slow learner sometimes. But so after I had this, review of Earth's history and future, I started going with my 5 closest friends, and I started merging into them one at a time. They told me that in order to awaken as Source, I had to get used to the idea of being more than one. And so I spent a lot of time practicing, merging my energy into their energy and then living their physical lives the same way they had popped into Nancy's life when they were on the outside of the bubble of my life, of Nancy's life review. I was popping into their lives and I could live scenes from their physical lives, either as them or as me. It was the wildest thing. I mean, just, I could never have conceived of such a thing myself. And so I got good at merging into one. So then I did two, and I did three, and eventually I could merge into all five of them at the same time. And that feeling of being a collective being or collective entity or collective mind or person or whatever you want to call it is what source is like. So I went on and I was going to wake up, merge, remember that I was source. And on the way, I got to watch creation.
To watch the full video, click the link below, and I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel.